Well, I have just visited two systems of, let's say, exploration we have, the vision and the tact. But we could have been inside the ear, and we would have found there the space and the time. That is a marvelous visit. It was made in two different steps. One that you know, but you don't know the true story, and the other that you don't know, but the story is true nevertheless. The first is the story of Newton. You know that Newton was lying under an apple tree, an apple was falling, he was looking at the moon in the sky, and suddenly he discovered that the moon was attracted by the earth like the apple was, and he discovered gravitation. Wow. It was not like that. It could not be like that. Because when you are under an apple tree and that an apple is falling, you don't see the apple. You hear it crossing the leaves. And when you hear that noise, there is only one thing that you can do, is to stand up to see from where is coming the danger. And it's what did Newton. When doing that, he changed the position of his head. So inside the inner ear, he had those little crystals which are floating inside the semicircular tubes, which were coming on different points, so that he could have, at the same moment, a notion of speed, of position, of inertia. Then he had all the ingredients to put in the formula of the general gravitation. If he had only seen the apple, he would never have invented gravitation. But he felt it at the moment he was thinking about it. And then suddenly he discovered that space is, so to speak, the frame of the possible. And when you move, you realize that the time is a measure of reality. But a little before, just very close, anatomically speaking, but not that close geographically, and nearly 100 years earlier, Galileo had found quite the same thing, at least using quite the same organ, but using a different part of it. He was at that time interested by the acceleration of the object when they are falling down. At that moment there were no good watches, there were no stroboscopy, no photography, and nobody could really follow where was a given marble falling down at a given moment. Galileo got the very simple idea to make a kind of slide, inclined, so that now the ball, instead of falling directly, would run. And he was supposing that the speed with which the ball will be running would be comparable to the speed with which it would fall directly. And he was correct. Then how did he measure the acceleration? By a very simple trick. He had a long slide, and he took the marble on one hand and a little chalk on the other hand. And then he began to hum a song. And he was just putting the chalk at the place where was the marble, when was coming back the tempo forte of the song he was humming. And he did it repeatedly. Then he measured the space that the ball had fall during one tempo of the song. He made the mean, and he got the acceleration system. And we have the writings of Galileo. It's very true that he invented the law of acceleration due to gravity just by humming a song. Because the ear tells us where is the cochlear system, which looks like a little snail, it gives us the harmony by the height of each sound. But it gives us also, by that feeling, the notion of vibration. And it gives, by a system that nobody knows exactly now, how times is elapsing. We have a timekeeper inside the ear, the inner ear, which tell us exactly the speed with which what we are observing is going. If it was not a very precise timekeeping piece, we could not drive an automobile, we could not play tennis, we could not even cross a road, because we have to calculate the speed with which the next automobile is coming, and this calculation needs that we have a timekeeper inside us, which is built in, and which is working any time we wake up. We know that the music is coming to us by the cochlear nerve, which gives us music and the harmony. And we know that the nerve which comes from the system which is sensitive to the time and to the space is the vestibular. Now, if we have the space in vestibular system and time in the cochlear system, then what did Einstein was very simple. He was just relating those two nerves, the cochlear and the vestibular, to say we cannot make any science if we do not put together space and time. And indeed, anatomy had done that for the beginning of humanity, because if you follow the cochlear and the vestibular nerves, they are wrapped around in one nerve, the auditive nerve, since we are born. So that, as the others, Einstein just discovered the way he had been made himself, which I guess he did not know at that time. That is to show you that the greatest discovery have their counterpart in the way we are. But what about reason? Where is that written? Where is the organ in which it plays? Well, here the best would be to go to the artifact, the thing which has been made by man. And the best artifact to understand how reason can be built in is a little arithmetic machine of Pascal. You remember that to help his father counting the amount of money he should ask the people to pay to the king, he invented a machine with little teeth on wheels. Each wheel had 10 teeth, and one wheel having made a whole run, one teeth could put the next wheel from one teeth again. So he invented the decimalization by wheels and by coded wheels. This was an extraordinary achievement, because it was the first time that it could be demonstrated that we could build in logic in matter if matter is logically constructed. And that was the first demonstration. And progressively, the calculating machine got more complex, and the one that you probably have in your pocket is a tiny computer which is 1,000 times more powerful than the little machine of Pascal. But, like the machine of Pascal, like the big computers of the NASA, the one you have in your pocket, answer to the three necessities which were built in the first machine and which are built in every machine, in any machine, which is able to mimic the human reasoning. That is, there is a network which is logical by construction. Now they call it wiring, but it's a network. The second is that there is a transmission at long distance without diffusion. That one signal is obliged to be able to go across the whole machinery to another point of the machinery where it must go without diffusion on the way. And third, it's, let's say, gate, open or closed, and never remain in between. That's the reason why the binary logic can be used to make computer. And that's very interesting, because at the deep of every machine which is able to simulate one of the functions of our mind is written yes, yes, no, no. Est, est, non, non. All the rest is coming from the devil. It took 2,000 years to informatic people to realize that it was devilishly true. That if one part of the machine does not answer yes or no, the whole reasoning is ruined. But our machinery is much more complex than the biggest computer that we have already built. To give you an example, if we count the nerve cells in our brain, there are around 11 billion. It's a big number. But what is really one gate is not one cell. It's a junction between the ending of one cell and the beginning of the next one. That is a junction between the arborization of an axon and the arborization of dendrites. Now, if we count those that we call synapses, which means that's the point at which two fibers of neurons are meeting together, synapses. If we count them, there are on some cells 1,000, on others only 100, on others 10,000 or more. Then as a mean, we have probably more than 1,000 synapses per neuron. That is, now we have to multiply by 1,000 the 11 billions we started with. That makes a machinery which is much more powerful and complex than a big Cray 1, and even than a big Cray 2. I don't know if you know what is Cray. It's a big computer, refrigerated, enormous, and costing, I cannot tell how much, but billions of money. But the length of the network is really impressive. If we measure it by the filaments that we can see under the microscope, the length of the network on an ordinary brain, 1 liter, 1 liter and a half, it's around from here to Tokyo, putting end to end the fibers that we can see on the ordinary microscope. But if we look inside the fibers, we will see that there are neurofibers inside, and there are bundles of them, which run from a dendrite to the end of an axon. And that is the true wiring, the informatic wiring. And this one, if you were taking the filaments, putting end to end, it would go to the moon and back. So we are really of an astronomically complex network, which is at your disposition, which is just at your benevolence. It's just you want to use it, it's ready to you.